When I first started putting out bird feeders and nesting boxes, I was happy for any bird I could get. But what I really wanted was bluebirds. But everything I was reading about them kept telling me how picky they were. They wanted their nests in an open field facing the southeast direction. They wanted a quiet area that's not near a lot of other birds and bird feeders. And they wanted their box 6 feet off the ground. Well, the 6 feet I could do. With 15 bird feeders and 3 dogs, there's plenty of activity back here. And with all these trees, I really don't have any open space. So I was afraid I was never going to get a bluebird. But I found a surefire way to attract bluebirds to the yard and get them to break all the rules and build a nest in the box in my backyard. The secret weapon? Mealworms.
Mealworms aren't really worms at all. They're the larval stage of the darkling beetle, and they don't carry diseases and are really easy to keep. You can buy them at your local bird store, and these came from Backyard Wild and Matthews. I keep them in a plastic container with some breadcrumbs or cornmeal in my refrigerator. They really don't need the food because the cool temperatures keep them dormant, but for some reason I felt better about having the food in there. If you leave them out for a while, they'll start wiggling. So to keep the ick factor to a minimum, keep them cool. Starting in early spring, every day or as often as you can, preferably around the same time each day, go outside and put the worms in a feeder you've seen the bluebirds using. I also whistle when I put out my worms because bluebirds are easily trained and will learn to come when you whistle. Start with about a dozen worms and don't be alarmed if other birds steal 1 or 2 before the bluebirds get there. Once the bluebirds discover the worms and learn to recognize your whistle, you can guide them to eat wherever you want them to eat. I sometimes put worms in other feeders or a dish on the ground. But since I want them to use the nesting box I put up especially for them, I bought a small tray feeder for the pole so they'll come to understand there's a reliable food source near the nest. And if you've never ever seen a bluebird in or near your yard, this may not work for you. But if you've seen them in your neighborhood, you can probably entice them to your yard with the mealworms. And once you've demonstrated to them that your habitat is an excellent source of their favorite food, they will most likely decide that your yard is the place they want to raise their family. But don't blame me if the neighbors accuse you of stealing their bluebirds. Once the eggs are laid, put out more worms each day so that mama doesn't have to leave the nest for long periods of time to eat. And once the eggs hatch, there'll be 4 or 5 insatiable babies that need constant food and attention. So mom and dad will really appreciate multiple servings of worms throughout the day.
So if you haven't been successful in getting bluebirds to your yard, don't despair. Go out and get you some mealworms. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carol Bowie Jackson, and here's hoping you smell like dirt.